I got some opinions on the new fusion versus the units that are available in the summon boost right now. So we're going to get to that. But first, we did complete the second to last of our challenges over here. Thank you very much. 100k silver. Feels like, oh, it's already gone. Okay, it's probably already gone. Let's see what we got for the quests. Let's grab all of these. I think that's about it. Nice. Let's go take a look at the new... Oh, wait a second. We got the Clan v Clan as well right now. Got to make sure we grab all of these. This is my my verification to you guys that I'm actually farming. Although, I don't know why they matched us. We're level 8. I don't know how we're still level 8. But we're level 8 versus the opponent is level 15. So, kind of feel like this one's already lost. Although we do have more active players right now than they have. But I think that they're just, like, their top players are probably gonna... You know, I think I am the one holding everyone back. Hold on. If I just do better, I think it'll be a big difference. I don't know. I don't think I can make up for, like, 100,000 points on my own. But it would be nice to get some of these extra awards over here. Anyway, we've got this news over here, which we already kind of took a look at the Titus Blackplume, but let's take a look at him and then the boosted units. My favorite part of all of this is that it still says Titas. We looked at this the other day, it said Titas. We look at it again today, hasn't been fixed, still says Titas. Let's take a look. Starts July 3rd, mixed fusion for epics to fuse the legendary, which we saw also in the screen, not the screenshot, the little promo material that's in the game in the news. Bannerlord's faction. It is a void unit, defense-based legendary. I know everyone already knows that it's a void unit. That's kind of why he's more exciting. Otherwise, this would be a pass for a lot of people. Like, defense-based legendary, not really anything too crazy. First skill attacks an enemy, 40% chance of placing a block active skills debuff for 2 turns. Effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under a shield buff. Whenever an ally counterattacks, teams up with allies to attack, or instantly activates a skill, also has a 40% chance to place a block active skills debuff on the target enemy. If there are multiple champions on the team with a skill, only one will activate. It's kind of wild for a first skill to have so much go, not in raid, but just compared to a lot of the other games out there. Kind of wild to have so many things going on with a first skill. Student of War attacks one enemy. Attack will always crit if the champion is under a shield buff. This attack also gains a damage boost equal to the value of the shield. Removes all debuffs from all allies if the target is killed, but it's conditional. It's just if the target is killed. If the target survives, place a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn instead. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under a shield buff. It's just all the synergizing based on the shield buff. So, and I don't know how much damage they even really say how much the damage multipliers are going to be. I don't think it says anywhere. It just says the cooldowns and the damage increases, but I would assume that this is going to be a high multiplier because you need to actually kill with this. And then we have the Androx Confidant, cooldown 5 turns. Place a 50% ally protection buff, 50% increased attack buff, and 30% increased speed buff on a single ally. For 2 turns, also fills that ally's turn meter by 40%. Instantly activates this skill at the end of an ally's turn if that ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100. If there are multiple champions on team with this skill, only one will activate. I was kind of trying to theory craft if this was going to be a nice kind of counter mechanic, but I don't think it's going to be as strong as I want it to be. Also, it's still on cooldown, so it's not just going to keep activating over and over and over and over again. And then we have the Lord and Land passive. Every time an enemy hits an ally, that ally's next attack will deal 10% more damage for each hit they take. Stacks up to 100%. The damage increase resets after that ally deals damage. This could be one of those situations where, like, if the opponent is going to do a lot of hits, but not necessarily a crazy amount of damage per hit, this could potentially be strong because it's not really about him, it's about who else is on the team that's going to get stacked and do a crazy amount extra damage. So that could be, this could be like the saving grace of like, wow, this really winds up being very strong based on the Lord and Land passive. Then you have the increase void ally HP in all battles by 40%. Aside from that, I feel like he's either going to be a really nice synergy with something, and maybe that's what makes him so amazing. But aside from that, like him by himself, I don't really see too exciting. But this Lord and Land passive or the Androx Confidant, this could be a cool combo type of skill. Let's take a look at what's currently in the boosted summons, though. We'll do also the promo right now, and then we will be back to look at the boosted summons. Guys, today I want to tell you how to get the...
Are you going to tell them how to get me for free?
Well, yeah, I was going to do that.
Excellent! I will slay all the demons.
Well, I was going to tell them that if they click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen, they can get a legendary Elenaril at the beginning of the game.
Yes, Elenaril, a great unit for poison teams.
And then Maus Mage at level 10.
That will be wonderful for the dragons team.
And then Uugo at level 20.
A reviver with defense break. That should come in handy.
And then Fane at level 30.
Ah, Fane the boss slayer. And I, the magnificent Tholin Foulbeard, with the promo code DEMONSLAYER.
Yes, every new player can use a promo code in the first 48 hours to get an extra legendary of their choice.
Choice? Who else could they choose but me?
Well, they can also choose Ruarc with the promo code Desert Queen.
Oh, that is a good one.
Or they can use the promo code TREEHUGGER for a Greenwarden Ruarc.
Ah, they would never choose a vegan.
Or they can use the promo code GETALICE for a legendary Alice the Wanderer.
They can get Alice? She is amazing. I see I have some competition.
Or Sun Wukong with the promo code Monkey King.
The mighty Monkey King! He is so difficult to kill. Stop giving them options. Get back to the video.
So we've got the progressive chance for the next 10 hours, and I feel like this is one of those progressives that, like, if you don't have the units, you might want to really consider summoning for the units here. So we've got both normal shards and void shards as well. The voids, I think, are less interesting, even though they're also good units. But just some of those units in the progressives are ridiculous. So we got Chalco here. Let's take a look at the skills. Attack one enemy 2 times. Each hit will ignore 10% of the target's defense. Will ignore an additional 5% defense for each debuff on the target. Can stack up quite a bit if you have a bunch of debuffs on, like, for example, the dragon or whatever. Also seals 10% of the target's turn meter, 50% chance of repeating the attack against another target except for the initial target who is under 2 or more debuffs, occurs once per attack. Then we have the Inducer of Panic, attacks one enemy 2 times. First hit is a block passive skills and 60% defense break. The second hit applies a debuff spread effect, taking all debuffs from the target and placing them on all enemies. Debuff spread will work even if the initial target is killed. This could be really cool for example, a burn team for Spider, or really so many other places. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy, damage based on attack. And then we have the Unrelenting Violence, level 1, attacks all enemies before attacking, places a 50% increase in accuracy, and decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns, and places a 30% decreased speed on all enemies for 2 turns, damage based on attack. And then we have the passive Bottomless Maw, champion immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, and petrification debuffs. Whenever an enemy attempts to place one of these debuffs on this champion, instantly activates Inducer of Panic skill against that enemy. Doesn't set Inducer of Panic skill on cooldown. It is this one over here that has the debuff spread. Doesn't set on cooldown, increases damage dealt by 5% for each debuff placed by this champion or an ally. The damage increase resets each time a skill is used on this champion's turn. Kind of wild. It is a void legendary, but of course, kind of wild. Then we have Jorgid the Breaker. First skill is a double hit, 30% chance of repeating the attack. I'm sorry, violent runes in my head. Just flashbacks to pain and torment. Attacks all enemies. March of Tin attacks all enemies. Decreases the turn meter of all targets by 30%. Cannot be resisted. Place unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn if the attack kills an enemy. This could also be... I'm always thinking about Spider. This could also be good against Spider because he'll have the unkillable. The Spiders won't be able to kill if he has element... Well, element disadvantage. He's void. So, and then we have attack one enemy will ignore strengthen, stone skin, unkillable, block damage, increase defense, ally protection, and shield buffs. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. It's nice that he ignores all of these buffs, but it's just a single target. Doesn't do anything that crazy aside from that. And then we have the Crack Any Shell, 50% chance of this champion to ignore 50% of target's defense from each hit placed by this champion's skills. And that's what makes him, that's the synergy that makes this strong. So potentially ignore defense and ignore stone skin, unkillable, etc., etc. So what do we have for the third void? The third void legendary, Arnorn the Shining. First skill is a damage increase by 5% for each buff on the target, and then a 35% chance of placing a stun. Damage based on attack. Second skill is attack one enemy 2 times. Damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% for each 10% HP the champion has lost. If the target is under 2 or more buffs, we'll also ignore 35% of that target's defense. I feel like we've actually looked at this guy before in a previous, maybe like a couple months ago. I believe we actually did. If the target is under 2 or more buffs, we'll also ignore 35% of the target's defense. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Then we have the Wrath of the... I don't know the name of that. I feel like we have talked about this. Attacks all enemies, ignores increased defense, strengthen, and shield buffs. If the attack kills at least one enemy, decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 50%. Effects cannot be resisted. Could be good against... I'm not going to say it, guys. I'm not going to say it. Then we have the passive. Increase the champion's attack by 5% for each active buff on the enemy team. Prevents this champion's death and keep them alive on 1 HP when hit by a fatal hit. Place a stone skin buff on them for 1 turn. Then instantly activates the Wrath of the... I don't know how to pronounce that. This skill will not place the skill on cooldown. If there are multiple champions on team with this skill, this effect will only activate once. He just becomes much stronger when the enemy has a bunch of buffs on them. If that wasn't already, or when the enemy has buffs, not a bunch of buffs necessarily, but just has buffs. Personally, I think Chalco is seems like the most fun one to actually use. I don't have him on any account, but I don't have him on any account. Then we have kind of some must-have units. Like this is one that I really wish I was here when they put him in the game, because that is a boss killer. So we have, I think this is the least exciting one out of all of them. Still good unit, but the least exciting out of all of the ones that we have here. We have the speed lead, all battles by 19%. First skill attacks an enemy 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 1 turn. Oh my god. With the first skill though, that's kind of wild. And then we have the second skill attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a weaken and block buffs. Also decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 20%. If Moto of the Peel is on the same team, it's contingent. Steals 20% of the enemy's turn meter instead, damage based on attack. I don't feel like that's a must bring, well, you got this one as well. But places a 50% increase accuracy and a 30% increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. 75% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies. If Moto of the Peel is on the same team, has a 75% chance of stealing all buffs from all enemies instead. And then we have more Moto of the Peel. When it has a 15% chance of randomly changing the attacker's critical hits to weak, normal, or strong hits. If Moto of the Peel is on the same team, the chance increases to 30%. Active effect whenever this champion is hit increases the turn meter of the ally with the highest attack by 50%. Solid unit. However, the other units are just generally considered more useful. So let's take a look at the Lysandra. Let's see, she also has a speed lead. In all battles, 24%. Skill 1, attacks 1 enemy, transfers all debuffs from this champion to the target. Can be quite nasty in certain circumstances. Exhaustion level 1. I don't know. Yes, level 1. Attacks 1 enemy, fully depletes the target's turn meter. Oh my goodness. Nice against some bosses. And then we have place a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. That combined with the speed lead is really nice to just get a lot of turns and then decrease the turns of a single enemy that is potentially a slow, tanky, nasty unit. Fills the turn meter by all allies by 30%. And then we have a... decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 30% after it's ascended. I was looking to see what was the difference here. And then we have the next one, Lady Kimmy. So she's got the ally speed and Doom Tower battles by 30%. It's only Doom Tower though. Lady's Touch attacks 1 enemy, attacks the enemy with the highest turn meter, will attack the same enemy twice if the initial target also has the highest turn meter. The second hit has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. And then we have, I feel like these should be higher than 50%. Like, all of these decreased turn meters, like, it's the littlest bit of decreased turn meter, but then it's also not guaranteed to even activate. It's like, just give us a guaranteed activation of the tiny little turn meter decrease. They're like, no, we're stingy. Flurry of Petals attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased accuracy debuff and 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, 75% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 15%. And then we have the Spirit Flux, removes 1 random buff from each enemy, 75% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns on enemies who have buffs removed. Also filled the turn meter of all allies by 15%, plays a 50% increase attack and 30% increase speed on all allies for 2 turns. And then the passive, she's kind of similar in a couple ways to the Lysandra, not like 1 for 1. But whenever this champion plays a debuff on an enemy, also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5% for each debuff placed. Whenever this champion or an ally receives a debuff, it fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. Very interesting passive skill. And then we have the speed, the Doom Tower speed lead. So next up we have Armands, which gets absolutely ridiculous in, this is a PvP unit though. So this one's a PvP, Newt is a PvE. And both of them are like top tier for their respective areas. So he's got the speed lead over here, 28% speed lead. Word Blade attacks one enemy, 35% chance of increasing the cooldown of a random active skill by 2 turns, fills this champion's turn meter by 10% for each turn added to the cooldown. Second skill attacks all enemies, steals the turn meter of each target except enemies under Sheep debuffs. Also places a stun debuff for 1 turn on all enemies not under a Sheep debuff. This is one of those units, one of those rare legendaries that actually has CC. I feel like we need more units in this game. Plarium, can you just... They're not listening. But if they were, I would love to tell them. I mean, I guess I can, but they're not going to listen. That they can just buff units that people have been complaining that are not buffed. They could just put AoE crowd control on them and then be like, there you go, guys. There's your buff. And it doesn't really require much thought. They're like, yeah, it doesn't. We're not going to do it anyway. Yeah. So it is control, and it's very, very sheepy. Place a Sheep debuff on an enemy for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be blocked. 75% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies. Fills this champion's turn meter by 5% for each buff removed. And then we have the Master. He's a CC and Sheepy Sleeper. Sheepy Stunner? Sheepy Stunner. Whenever a Sheep debuff is removed or expires on an enemy, increase the cooldown of a random active skill on that enemy to its max. Fills this champion's turn meter by 10% for each turn added to the cooldown. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. It seems like it's not that ridiculous when you actually look at it. I mean, this is a 3-turn cooldown though. That's one of the things. But just the amount of control. He's got the speed lead, he's got a crap ton of control, and he's got the Sheep. He keeps turning things into Sheeps and taking extra turns and stunning and turning things into Sheeps, and it gets for those of you that haven't seen it, I know some of you already know it's insane. For those of you that haven't seen it, it gets insane. It really, really does. So this is a nasty unit, especially for things like Live Arena. And then we have the Newt, and if you are not familiar, I feel like a lot of people are already familiar with him, especially because everyone uses him in dungeon teams all the time. But this is a unit that, based on his multi-hits, he kind of goes around the damage caps for enemy max HP damage, and he does more damage with his skills. He doesn't seem, on paper, he doesn't seem like that crazy, but when you actually see him being used, he just does so much damage to bosses. It's ridiculous. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 80% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. If the target's turn meter is not decreased, each hit has an 80% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the target for 1 turn instead. Damage based on defense, so he's a little bit tankier than like an attack type unit that would do something like this. We've got the Fury of the King, attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack and 25% weaken on all enemies for 2 turns. Also plays a counterattack on this champion for 2 turns, damage based on defense. And then we have the Blessed Bash, attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit decreases the target's defense by 3%, stacks up to 30%. Also, each hit heals this champion's by 30% of the damage dealt, damage based on defense and enemy max HP. So, just the fact that this is a multi-hit and he does damage based on enemy max HP, he just does a ton of damage to the biggest, nastiest bosses in the game, and that's why everyone loves him for PvE. When counterattacking, deals 100% of damage instead of 75. and increases accuracy in dungeons by 80. If I didn't, like, if I just saw this unit on paper and didn't see anything and didn't know that he was so good at just taking down bosses, I would be like, oh, okay, he's an okay unit. Yeah, maybe a little bit underwhelming, but knowing how much damage this does is... yeah, he does quite a lot of damage. So I will be wailing for this, of course. I will be wailing on, not this account, but I'll be wailing on the, maybe wailing is the wrong idea, is the wrong word. I will be getting some shards on the other account to try to get a couple of these units. So let's grab this. It's a 15% extra chance. That's not it. It's not a 15% extra chance. It's 15x chance of getting this, up to 20x, up to 25x. Still doesn't guarantee anything, but if you have enough shards, and if you just keep throwing money, Plarium's like, yes, you got it. If you just keep throwing money, I gotta go farm, man. We got this clan v clan, and there's a lot to. We're gonna lose this anyway. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be trying to get some of these units for sure. Can we get anything from here? If we get anything, it's gonna be for something we don't have. I know how this goes. Oh, thank you for the 4-star on something I'm not going to build. Although I kind of feel like maybe I want to build some of these things just because we have the souls for them. But anyway, that's it for this one. That's my thoughts on... I'm more excited about the boosted chance. It's only for 10 hours, but I'm more excited about the boosted chance than I am about the fusion. Although I suppose it's just one of those things. It's like, it could seem like it's not as exciting as some of the other ones, and then you see it in action. It's like, oh my god, that's the one I skipped on. I shouldn't have skipped on that one. Leave it to be the one that you skip on to be the one that's actually better than you think it is. I think that's just how things go. Anyway, that's it for this one. See you as always in the next one.